today we've got a very special guest, Scotty Z. He's an Aussie boy living in Russia, but he's not just your ordinary guy. He's a positive, powerful force in this world. And I wanted to share Scott with you because he's very, because he's living in Russia. So, and and I'm fascinated by this Russia stuff and how it plays out on the world stage and whether it's all just a movie and all of this stuff. We know it's not. We know people are dying and all of this. You're on the ground in Russia, but you're also a coach, and you want to bring high vibes into the world and help people sort of to deal with things and to overcome obstacles. And there's a big worldwide obstacle at the moment. So I just wanted to bring Scott in. And he's frozen.
I'm here. I'm back.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about who you are, Scott, and how you came to be in Russia. Maybe we'll start there.
All right, cool. I'll give you the brief version because it's been a crazy 20-something years since I stepped onto the path of freedom. I guess that's what we're all on here. I don't know what it was back at 19, but I walked out of a courtroom having got 16 criminal convictions, including an assault conviction, break and enter, theft. I had some big problems when I was 17, 18. I was a good kid. I was school captain. I was head of the rituals and ceremonies. I was a black belt in karate, but my father and I had a terrible relationship. And after school, I just went off the rails. And I didn't have any sort of male mentors in my life to actually guide me. And I just started getting into punch-ups and started breaking into cars, hanging out with the wrong guys, and eventually got caught. Went through court, took 15 months. I've been to court way too many times. The system, shit. Finally got to the district court and got the sentencing, no recorded conviction, 150 hours community service. Leaving the courtroom, the guy who physically caught me and my friend 15 months earlier in a car chase was at the court, and he didn't like that I had quote unquote got off, and he took it upon himself to try and end my life. So within the next week and a half, he found out where I lived. He came to my house. He threatened to kill me. I wasn't there. We went and put a police restraining order on him, my father and I. And the next day he broke the restraining order, called my family home and threatened to kill me. So that day my dad put me on a plane from Brisbane and flew me back to Cairns, which is where I grew up. And my whole life changed on that day, the 25th of January, 2001. I was 19, almost 20. And I made a decision that day. I realized that the last 2 years of my life going through court, I broke my dad's jaw. I had all this fucked up shit going on. Nobody wanted to be around me. I'd come from being like giving the valedictorian speech at school as the school captain, top of the world. 2 years later, here I got 16 convictions. My dad only talks to me because I was going to get killed. Like, nobody wants to be around me. I was like, what the fuck happened to my life? And I realized that day that two things. One, I was violence was really affecting me. I had that black belt in karate, I had the training, but I didn't have any control of it. I needed to learn how to harness that masculine fire, that rage that's inside of a man, more so than a woman, but we have it inside us. And I didn't know how to channel that. And so I said, I'll never lift my hands in violence again. And I never have. I'm proud of that, 20 something years now. And the second thing is I realized everyone was doing what they wanted me to do. I was being the good boy. I was doing, what they wanted me to, and I just burst. I couldn't handle it. And so I vowed I'd never do what anyone else wanted me to do ever again. I was going to do what I wanted to do. And at 20, I was 19, a month before my 20th, I was like, what do I want to do? And I said, I don't know. I want to be happy. That's the only thing I could come up with because I was fucking miserable. Excuse my language. I wanted to be happy. So I didn't know what happiness was. I decided, what if I do all of the fun things that I've ever wanted to do? Maybe that'll make me happy. As a 19-year-old guy, what do I want to do? I want to travel the world. I want to jump out of airplanes. I want to go scuba diving and rafting and kayaking, do all of these things. And so I did. I stepped in. I became a dive instructor for the next 2 years. I just scuba dived the Great Barrier Reef. I've done like 2,000 dives. It was in that time I realized everyone speaks at least 2 languages. So after that, I moved to Japan. I always had the connection with martial art. And at 20, I went to my first personal development retreat, and a guy taught me meditation. And he said, if you meditate every day, you'll be happy like me. And I was like, right, meditating every day. So I'm a bit like that when I get onto something. I'm like a dog on a bone. So I just got after it and started meditating every day, trying to figure myself out, reading spiritual books. And my journey just continued from there. I've become a rafting guide, a kayaking guide, an outdoor educator. By 28, I was leading groups of kids, teenagers mostly, into nature, doing sort of wilderness-based adventures and camping and all of that. That got me into the personal development space. I then moved into teaching more adults about themselves. Self-love and self-belief was always my focus because that's something that I didn't have and that I had to develop. And then I got invited to move to Bali. So I lived in Bali for 5 years working at the Green School. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's an alternative education school, all built out of bamboo in the forest in Bali. It's an international school, won so many awards. Incredible school, incredible education. Yeah, Green School Bali. You check it out. And I was the outdoor educator there. So just working with some really bright kids and also working in the sort of the personal development thought leader space there as well, with retreats and yoga. I'm a yoga teacher, stuff like that. And then the last 10 years I've been doing my own thing, coaching, teaching, running programs, and just trying to help people believe in themselves and get back to who we really are. I sort of come from that, like, we're a spiritual being, but we're very physical, you know, so you might as well get good at both. Understand who you are and the powers that we have, but also, you know, recognize that it takes action. You better roll up your sleeves and be willing to get into it, having the right mindset, taking care of your body. And when the whole COVID thing started, I just knew that the hammer was falling, that the globalists, as we now call them, back then I was calling them the Illuminati. Remember the Illuminati days? Everything's the Illuminati. The Illuminati. I'd been down the rabbit hole like most of us, and, you know, I knew what was going on. And as soon as that COVID thing started, I was like, right, they're starting. That year I did 7 ayahuasca journeys. Ayahuasca has been a big part of my life. I don't know, you guys are very familiar with the plant medicines from the Amazon jungle. Yeah. I'll be sitting again in 2 weeks. We just got the dates, which is very exciting. That's been a big part of my life. But that year I set 7 journeys, completely closed down my company online, and then rented 10 acres of land in the middle of the Gold Coast, set up a wedding marquee, and just started running community events on the Gold Coast and bringing people together, and set up a community gardens. And yeah, just
why didn't we ever hear about these?
I don't know. See, we're on the Gold Coast.
We're on the Gold Coast and we never heard about them.
Oh, seriously, Mudgee Bar, right on the main road of Mudgee Bar where the parks are.
Mate. We never heard about it.
No way. Permacare. You never heard about Permacare?
No.
Far out. 2020, we were big. We had hundreds of people come through that land. But, you know, we've all got our own cliques and niches. So it is what it is.
And
then after that, I moved to Russia. That was how I got here. My wife's Russian. I met her just last bit. I met my wife in Bali 5.5 years ago. Fell in love. Fell pregnant. Moved to St. Petersburg. Our son was born in St. Petersburg 4.5 years ago. Then we moved back to Australia for 2.5 years. And then after I closed Permacare, the government gave me a really hard time. The council was really full on. It's probably too dark. Was really full on. The council, the police, the locals. I got smashed for what I was doing, and I was talking out about what was going on. A lot of people didn't like that.
In Australia, or
on the Gold Coast in Australia, in Mudgee Bar, yeah, and they really, like, the council came. 6 different council divisions were threatening me. Eventually, I got threatened with a $3 million fine. I had 4 weeks to amend a driveway, or I was going to get a $3 million fine because it was a corporate lease. I had a 20-year lease, but it was under a trust. $3 million fine. I was like, you guys fucking win. I'm done. You know, it was too much. And then my wife's like, can we please leave? They're going to shut the borders for 6 months. She was like hassling me. Let's get out of Australia. I want to see my family. I want to be with my family. She's very close with her family. They're very traditional here. And I was like, right, let's go. I'm easy. I've lived around the world for 20 years. This is my 3rd second language. Like, I'm okay with different cultures. I like Russia. They're good people. So 18 months ago, we left Australia, packed up in a month, sold everything, gave most of it away, got on a plane, because we didn't know if they were going to shut the borders. This is when all the border stuff, you know, they eventually did. It took another 6 months for, you know, obviously people that aren't silly enough to get poison in their arm, which I was never going to play that game. So we got the hell out of there before that happened. 18 months ago, I arrived in Russia, and here we are. We're almost finished our house in an eco village, which is something, yeah, we can talk about as well. But yeah, stoked to be here. My Russian's getting pretty good. Fallen in love with these people. And then what happened since February, obviously I've gone down the rabbit hole of why, and realized that, you know, Putin is the master. He's fighting the fight for us and standing up for us against the Satanists. He even spoke about the Satanists in a recent speech. Anyway, that's my intro. That's why I'm here.
Scotty, can I just touch on Russia for a moment? Do you feel like so I'm a big believer in, our souls get called to certain lands because we're in that land for a reason. So do you believe and feel that Russia called you to be there on the land for this time on the journey?
It's funny that you asked that question. I know 100% that that is the case. I was born for this time, as you were both born, and many people listening to this, we know we were born for this time. We've known for many years. Ironically, if you look at my name, Scotty Z, that Z symbol is the symbol of the Russian resistance. It's everywhere on billboards, on the back of cars, trucks. Like the Z is everywhere, and it stands for Zapad, which means west. It was because the Russian forces moved in from the west into Ukraine, and we saw on all the media was the Z. So all of the locals started getting into supporting the Z. I've carried the name Z since I was 16 years old. It's a nickname I got in high school. I had a big key ring of a Z computer game, a futuristic military computer game that I loved. And I had a Z on my key ring in my pocket. Everyone saw the Z, called me Scotty Z. In 2012, I legally changed my name to Scotty Z. My actual passport says Scotty Z. I walk around with a Z in the country of Z, married to my Russian wife. Absolutely, I'm meant to be here. And I feel that I'm meant to.
One of my favorite cartoon characters is the Big Z out of Surf's Up. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I remember that film. Yeah.
It's the big fat penguin, the old time, the legend, the wise penguin.
The master. Yeah.
The master.
He taught the young fella.
He was the master. So there's a lot of Z's there.
There's a lot of Z's. Yeah.
I was
definitely meant to be here.
So you are meant to be there. You are meant to be there. And I really wanted to ask you how the Russian people are. What's the vibe in Russia on the ground? I know you're in a village. I don't know if you get into the big cities but you're in touch.
I just drove back from the big city. Yeah, I was up there all day.
What's the feeling over there? What are people sort of,
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll touch on it twofold. One, I'd love to share a bit about the Russian people themselves, and then from there, actually their feeling of what's going on and their support for Putin and the moves that are being made in Ukraine right now. So, as I said, I've lived around the world for 20 years. I worked in tourism for a decade. I know people very, very well. I love people. I can feel people. The Russians are strong. They're different. They're really, really strong. They're very, it's 150, 160 million people in Russia, right? But it's only Moscow and St. Petersburg that are really actually gentrified. Even the big city here, Nizhny Novgorod, where we live, it's a big industrial city, but it's old school. It's only the St. Petersburg and Moscow that there's the young people are really being affected by the Western world. Because since the 90s, they didn't have the generation of my parents, at least, they didn't have Hollywood and American-backed media manipulating their perception of reality. They didn't have that influence. The 90s, it was shut. It was only since the 90s that they've even been opened up. So it's only I'm 40. It's only my generation that it's had the manipulation of the globalists, who we now know have been controlling us through the narrative of the media and education for so long. The Soviet Union didn't have that. They didn't have any of that. So they don't have that manipulation. They're coming from a different frame. Plus, it's hard here. I lived in Indonesia. Indonesia's hard. Thailand, I know you guys probably been to Bali before. Bali, on the surface of Bali is great. As soon as you get out of Bali and you go other places in Indonesia, those people are struggling. Russia's the same. But in Bali, you can live on $1 and sleep under a banana tree and you'll be fine. In Russia, it's minus 30. You can't. You got to survive. You got to work. You got to get after it. So they've got this mentality of just do what you need to do to survive. So they're cunning. The roads are fun. They're chaos. I love the roads. They're very aggressive, but they get it done, which I'm a bit aggressive, so I can sort of handle it. But they're strong-willed people. Second World War, again, my grandfather's age and when my parents come out of, 26 million Russians killed, at least half of them civilians. They all carry that scar. The village, I go for a walk down on the river here, and there's a whole cemetery. Each village has their own little cemetery, and the cemetery's got a shrine with there'd be 30 names on it of local people from this little village that died in the Second World War. I mean, everybody was affected by the Second World War. They all knew somebody who was affected. So you carry that. Australians, we don't carry that. Americans, we don't carry that. Germans carry that. Germans carry that. Russians carry that. There's really no one else. I mean, Germany never got into the UK. So they bombed the UK, but they didn't have that like on their doorstep. 26 million Russians. And then the 90s, when it collapsed, USSR collapsed, this place was in poverty, absolute poverty. They'd gone from a centralized system to like this quasi-capitalism. It was bankrupt. So they know struggle. Hard times make strong people, right? Strong people make...
The whole of, like, Europe knows this. Europe, I watched a quick, I'll just, for 1 second, a little quick 45-minute thing the other night, the history of Russia. And it was all the, how, and Ukraine and into Poland, and how all the lands changed over the last sort of, 2,500 years. And, the Khazarian thing in the Ukraine, and how Russia said no to this Khazarian thing. This is the same battle that's going on. They know this. They've been at this for a long time, haven't they? I mean,
if you look at the Russian emblem, you got the Russian flag, which is behind me, right? But then you got the Russian emblem, which is the double-headed eagle. And then in the middle, there's a crest with a knight with a spear spearing a dragon, a winged serpent, spearing it to the ground. I should pull that up. You can have a look at it. But if you guys out there, go and search the Russian emblem, right? And you'll see right at the center, it's spearing a serpent, a winged serpent, a white knight on a horse. I mean, there's a reason that that's in there. The Russian people, like, they have been the James Bond-esque enemy of the West for so long. Why? And it's the West, meaning the controllers of the West, the Hollywood, media, corporate, political elite that are the cabal, that are the globalists. Russia's been the enemy for so long. They thought that they'd killed Russia at the collapse of the Soviet Union. They thought Russia was never going to come back. And then Putin came along. And if you have a look, there's a really great series done by Oliver Stone called The Putin Interviews.
Fantastic.
It's four hours. And Oliver Stone is incredible. He did another one called Ukraine on Fire, which is a great documentary about the 2014
watched it 3 times. It's fantastic. Everyone should watch that.
Everyone should check it out. If you want to understand what happened in 2014 that led us to today and why Putin has been pushed, they say, oh, Putin started it. Putin didn't start shit. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to hurt people there. They launched how many rockets the other day? On the last 2 days, it was like over 100 rockets. 11 people were killed. This is not carpet bombing Vietnam, ladies and gents. This is not Baghdad back with weapons of mass destruction bombing cities. This is not, England bombing German cities in the Second World War. 11 people were killed. He's not trying to hurt people. They doesn't want to hurt people, but he needs to take out the snakes that have been in Ukraine, propping up Ukraine to be the point that stabs Russia. That's what the globalists are doing. They've been using Ukraine, and they say fight to the last Ukrainian. They're doing that to hurt the Russians. And I didn't know any of this stuff before it all started. Then I went down the rabbit hole, and I'm a great researcher. And like most of us, you start looking deeper into it, and you're figuring it out, like why they're doing this. But final bit on the Russians, you don't want to fuck with a Russian. Everybody knows that. That's why James Bond is always the enemies of the Russians, because they're strong. They are strong as nails. They're tough as nails. You will not break a Russian. And now when it comes to the actual support of Putin, 80% approval rating, highest in the world. And I say, oh, it's all propaganda. It's all kind of bullshit. It is not. And I speak to a lot of people. I like people. And I ask them, and I'm very politically motivated. And I ask them, what do you reckon? And they're like, no, Putin's the master. Putin's the man. We support Putin for sure. Again, it's only the younger people that are manipulated by Facebook, Instagram, social media, the narrative, that really, are like, oh, I don't know. Anyone who's out of that and actually in the reality of Russia, they're like, hate war, absolutely, don't want to be any part of it. And we got to do what we got to do because these people are Satan worshippers. Putin called them out in the ascension of the 4 new territories. If you guys haven't watched that yet, listen to his 45-minute speech. And guys, you'll find it on YouTube, of the ascension of these 4 new territories. He talks about them being Satanists and a satanic agenda. And that's not for us. That's not for Russia. He's fighting for us.
and like I said before, Russia said no over 2,000 years ago. They said no to the Satanists then. They're still saying no to them.
That's what people need to understand. You've got to get behind Russia. Like, there are hundreds of thousands of people standing up in Europe right now protesting against their government supporting sending weapons to Ukraine. It's not being shown on the mainstream media, but if you look at alternative media, literally tens of thousands of people on the street at one time with placards saying, stop the war, stop supporting Ukraine, stop sending weapons to Ukraine. That it's us people that are supporting Russians to do what needs to be done. We've got to do that inside our own countries. COVID was the beginning. Us going to the rallies, us standing up, us saying no to your mask and your bullshit. That was the beginning. Now it's saying no to this globalist agenda, no to the Satan agenda. And Ukraine is the head of the snake right now, that they're pushing all of their energy to try. They want Putin to fire a nuke. That's all they want. As soon as he fires one nuke, NATO wants to come in and start World War III. But Putin's an 8th Dan judo black belt. There's only 10 Dans. For anyone that studies martial art, there's 10 Dan. 10th is like the ultimate master. There's like one of them or something. He's an 8th Dan judo master. He's been practicing judo for the last 50 years. He has a life-size sitting, the founder of judo, life-size statue. You'll see it in the Puna interviews. He is a devout, like, martial artist. This is not a man that is prone to craziness, like they say, or, you know, some mistake. He's methodical, he's calculated, he's been leading this country for 20 years, from bankruptcy to prosperity. The ruble is the strongest performing currency of the year. It's 40% on the Aussie dollar from 12 months ago. 40%. It's 50% on the euro. 50%. That's a massive difference in 12 months. It's Europe and the US and the pound is collapsing. Australian dollar's going the same way. They're all crumbling. They need a war to prop themselves up so that they can boost their economy. Putin's like, we're good. We got China, we got India, we got other partners. It's only Europe and America that aren't trading with them. They're making more money than ever before with the price of oil and gas. He's doing very, very well for the Russian people. And it's the elite Satanists of all of the Western countries that are effing over us, the Westerners. You know, I don't live there anymore, but my family certainly does. I'm Australian, I'll always be Australian. You know, it's our leaders that are throwing us to the slaughter, and Putin's do everything he can to support his people. But he knows, and he said it in that recent speech, this is more than just about Russia. This is about the world and these people trying to take over the world. And he's standing up, and we're standing up in our own homes, and we've got to be able to do that. We have to do that.
Yeah, and he's not standing alone. Like you say, he has, you know, he has China, he has India, he has these other BRICS nations that they've stepped in and they've said, we're not going to keep supporting this agenda, this American agenda. It's not the American people. They know as much as Australians do. I mean, we've just been, like you say, brainwashed. You can't have this conversation with people on the street in Australia. It's virtually impossible. You know, for the most part.
It's an interesting. It's like COVID, right? But it's the brainwashing is even more severe because the COVID thing was new. It's like, fuck, what is COVID? But then you say, oh, it's Russia. Oh, Russia again? I bet they hacked our stuff. It's like they've been setting us up for my mum and dad hated Russia because James Bond fought Russia, you know, like whatever. It's in this brainwashing. So all of a sudden, Russia, the enemy, Russia, blame Putin for everything. Blame Putin for everything. Oh, look at all the woes of the West. Hey guys, you just printed, what is it? 20% of the US dollars in circulation were printed in the last 2 years. A fifth of all of the dollars were printed in the last 2 years. You can't print that much money and expect there to be no inflation. That's how it works, right? Oh no, Putin's inflation, Putin's gas hikes. It's like, you guys are fucking idiots. But people buy it.
They do.
People are buying it. They're watching the news and they're going, okay, tell me more.
They're going back for seconds and thirds.
Pretty much.
You know,
that's why alternative media is important.
We've got the UK, you know, responsible for this bombing of this bridge, right? The bridge to Crimea.
Potentially. Yeah, potentially.
I follow Redacted, and I've just been listening to an ex He was an ex-military guy, big guy up in the military. He basically said,
Colonel Douglas McGregor. I
Yeah.
just listened to about 2 hours of him this morning after the
Amazing.
redacted. Then I went down the rabbit hole. He's
but
on
he
it.
basically
He's telling
said the UK did this, right? The UK, and so in Russia, because I heard that like a week or so ago, or 2 weeks ago, they said to the US, maybe the US, get out of Russia.
yeah, the
Do you
US
find
citizens,
that,
yeah.
are there many sort of English, or, you know, United Kingdom, are there many, do you find as an Australian that you're sort of lumped in with that West, or are you okay?
That's an interesting question, and it's something that I've reflected on a lot. In the Second World War, if you had Japanese or German heritage, they would lock you up in an internment camp. Like Japanese, third generation Japanese living in Australia or America during the Second World War were taken away, put in a camp and said, look, we don't know if you're a spy or not, but we're just going to lock you up. So part of me is like, is that going to happen here in Russia? Nothing. I've had no problems whatsoever. You know, who knows what happens? No problems whatsoever. Everywhere I go, I carry an accent. You know, like my Russian is okay. I can communicate and have, you know, half decent conversations, but I carry an accent. And people ask, where are you from? They're always lovely. Nobody's ever given me a problem. I walk around on the street talking on the phone, you know, blah, blah, blah. I like going for a walk when I'm coaching. I usually go for a wander. And no, if people hear me, nobody's ever given me a hard time. They don't have that stigma, like Russian stigma. You can't even have a Russian cat in a cat contest now because the cat's a Russian breed. It's like, you fucking idiots. What? You know, here it doesn't matter. Like, you know, I'm Australian. I'm like, oh, you're Australian. Wow, Australia. It's like, yeah, kangaroo, all of
You
that.
know, I think Putin's made it very clear, though, that he makes a very good distinction between the people of these countries. It's not the American people. It's not the Australian, the English people. This is about the Nazis at the top. This is not, you know, so he
Absolutely.
wouldn't have a problem with you. Who's
No,
going to have
not
a
at
problem
all.
with you?
And look, I'm married to a Russian. My son is a Russian. I'm actually doing my Russian driver's license right now. That's going to be the first step. I can become a citizen any moment. I just have to speak Russian and pass a Russian history test, which I won't be able to do yet. Give me another year, maybe 2 years. It's a full-on deal. So like I'm pretty entrenched, you know, being Russian and the son, or being husband and father. So I think I'll be okay. But look, I just don't think that they think that way. They're not that brainwashed. They're not brainwashed like the West to hate Russia.
Are the Russian people sort of aware of, you know, the Ukraine thing, the Biden connection,
Yep.
they're all well aware of all of this, yeah?
Yeah. Telegram and Viber are the two platforms of choice here in Russia. And like I talk to my brother-in-law and my nephew-in-law. We're sort of like a brother-in-law. He's 25, about to have his first child. And like we sit around when the family always comes together and we talk about stuff. And they tell me everything that's going on. They know exactly what's going on. My wife, like, wake up in the morning and she's telling me about the Crimean bridge attack first, and like we're comparing notes. She's reading all the Russian. I'm in a couple of Russian Telegram channels as well. You can get in them. They're really great because Telegram has a translate feature. You just hold your finger and then translate, and you can read them all in English. So I follow a couple of those as well. But she's always telling me they all know. They know what's going on. They know about the Biden. They know about the Satan agenda. They know all about that, and they're sharing it through Viber and Telegram.
And the people on the street, sort of in the village, the old people, do they know what's going on?
They support Putin. Like that's the number one thing. See, Putin didn't come along 4 years ago or 2 years ago like Biden, or even Trump was only 6 years ago. Putin's been leading this country for 20 years, since 1999. 20 years. He had 4 years where he stepped back to be prime minister, where you had Medved in there as the president, but Putin's been there the whole time. The people trust Putin. They've seen his feet walk for 20 years and what he's done for the country. He's not a talking head like these. The political system, we say this democracy thing is so great. Really, is it? You got a guy who comes for 4 years. By the time he sort of learns the ropes, but realizes the deep state is there, they're really the ones pulling the strings anyway. He can't make any change. We're voting for, you know, a revolving door of nothing. It doesn't make a difference. Putin's been there 20 years, rebuilding the country from bankruptcy. The people have seen their prosperity increase. And so they trust the man. They've seen him walk for 20 years and what he does. So when he speaks, they listen. You know, they listen, they say, what is what he's saying true? And then they can research it and see that he speaks the truth. He's not a hype man. He tells you how it is, and just gives it to you straight. I listen to every speech that the man says. Everything that comes out of his mouth, I listen to it. I make sure of it. I say I'm sitting at the feet of the master. I'm listening to the master.
He's very measured. He's very calm. He's very eloquent, and he gives you a history lesson through his features as well, which is brilliant. I had one question somebody wanted me to ask you, because a comment came up the other day that, and I don't know how you feel about all of this, the Nasara Jasara thing, but somebody made a comment that they actually heard the words Jasara come out of Putin's mouth, that we are headed towards this, you know, and I wanted to verify that. So I don't know if you...
I've not heard anything about it. Now, still my understanding, because it's been going on for many years, Jasara and Nasara, is that there's a reset and all debt is wiped and that we start afresh. Is that still the conceptual understanding?
That's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of like little intricacies that come into it. That's not true. That's a DARPA operation. There's this, that, and the other. Is it true or not? Yeah, we're headed for some sort of a reset, a gold-backed currency, blah, blah, blah. It'll be...
Well, Putin's already made that. Yeah, Putin's already made the step to that, as we know. He's now hasn't completely tied it to the dollar, but he's made a move to put rubles back towards a dollar standard, which is really great. They have very strong gold reserves here. They've been buying up like China has for many, many years, because they know that the US dollar is collapsing as the reserve currency, excuse me. I've got my wife and son like banging and knocking.
No worries. Do what you got to do.
You better let him in then, Scott.
I haven't locked the door though. Let me see what's going on. Maybe I did lock the door. I don't know. She called me, so I just muted it.
As you do.
Well, I'm on a call. I mean, I'm on supposed to do. I didn't lock it.
You got to let the wife in.
Yeah, well, Russian wife as well, guys. You don't mess around there. And my wife has a big tattoo of Garuda. You know Garuda? Vishnu, the god, rides on the back of Garuda. It's like this big dragon thing. My wife's a yoga teacher as well, and deeply rooted into the Sanskrit and Vedic philosophy. And Russian and Sanskrit are very close. They actually share a lot of ties. One sec. No, she's not answering anyway. They share a lot of ties. Sanskrit and Russian, the Cyrillic, the Russian language, is actually very... like Ved is knowledge, it means in Russian as well, like the Vedas. So it's actually very, very close. The Indian traditional 5,000-year-old Indian tradition.
I think that's where they named Darth Vader from. Darth is I think it's on the tree of life, the Kabbalistic tree of life is the 9th place, is the unknown element, this Darth, it's called Darth, and Vader is the Vedas and the knowledge, you know, ancient knowledge. So it was like hidden ancient knowledge. It was like, okay, maybe that's where they got Darth Vader from, you know.
There you go. There you go.
You know, are people worried about this nuclear war happening, or is it just talk? What's your feel on it?
Yeah, no, that was on Redacted today as well. I follow that every day. He's really good. I really like his work. And Colonel McGregor was talking about that as well. I love it. By the way, guys, if you haven't, and you have because you're listening to Redacted, but go and YouTube search Colonel Douglas McGregor. Colonel Douglas McGregor, MAC, and he is a retired Army, I believe he was, some sort of US military colonel who was just spot on, speaking it as it is, like a man of integrity. He's calling it exactly how it is. As I said, I listened to 3 interviews of him this morning, had a lot of driving to do, and he's spot on. Like, listen to that guy. If you want to understand the undercurrents of what's happening, the 2014 coup, how US and NATO have been training Ukraine to attack Russia, like everything that's going on now, this colonel, you know, will tell you exactly why we're there and what we're doing. In terms of the nuclear thing, look, we had a little bit of weirdness about it at first. My wife and I, you know, sat down and spoke about it. I spoke to a friend of mine who is ex-Special Forces in Australia, and he said, mate, they're not like that anymore. It's not like dropping a Hiroshima bomb or something. They're targeted, they're in one spot. As long as you're away from the centers, you'll be fine. It's not, you know, it's not like radioactive Chernobyl type thing. You'll be fine. So we didn't worry about it, and I'm not really worried about it. I I know for certain that Putin doesn't want to use them, but he will use them because if you push one, then they're sending another one, then you're sending 10, and then they're sending 100, and you're sending 6,000, which is how many Russia's got, and the world ends. So he doesn't want to go there. They may want to go there.
I've heard that NATO and the US are kind of backing down a bit now. They've pushed too far. They've tried to bluff. That actually, I think the colonel said it as well. I think he said it, that they were just beginning to sort of hang on a minute here, which is
are we pushing too far?
Yeah,
Here we go. Son, I'm on a call, mate. Can you please go downstairs?
Hello, lad.
There's my 4-year-old. You're live on Facebook right now, buddy. Can you please go downstairs and be with Mum? Tamara, please.
Please, Tamara, please.
Please. I'm live on Facebook in Australia.
What's your son's name?
Andre.
We
say Andre in English.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got Andre or Andre? Andrusha.
Yeah. Do you speak English with him?
I speak English. Mum speaks Russian. Yeah.
Lucky him.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, he speaks perfect, and he'll go back and forth, translate. Like when we're out in the street, I'll be like, "Hey, Andre, how do I say this?" And he'll tell me. I'm like, "Thanks." Or I'll ask, like, "Hey, what did that guy just say?" And he'll tell me. It's like, "Thanks, mate." He's my little translator, my little pocket translator.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I believe that the master turned 70 this week, so we wanted to say happy birthday to Putin. I heard.
I'll shake his hand for you when I see him.
I do that.
I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Do that.
It's an interesting one, hey. Like he's definitely he's the guy. He's the one that's standing up for us all. And I haven't been so outward. This is the most I've been outward with this. But listening to that speech the other day of the ascension of the 4 territories, and he's becoming more, as I am right now, more honest with what is happening, because people are starting to see more and more. If he came out in February and he's like, right, there's a group of Satanists that are controlling the world, and they are trying to use Ukraine to start World War III, people will be like, this guy's fucking mental. But now they see it, and again, the Russians are in Telegram and Viber, and we're sharing, and you're seeing what these people are doing, and this trans agenda, like he was talking about that as well, like coming more and more, he's becoming just more, he can tell more of the story without people writing him off as like, what is this guy talking about? Like 15 years, 20 years ago, we would tell people, hey, do you know there's a group of people that like control all the world? What have you been smoking? It's like, now you tell people, it's like, yeah, like everybody knows that now, right? And if you don't know it, it's because you're just watching ABC every day and you're 80, and in that case, don't worry about it. You're 80, just chill out. I don't need to freak you out anyway. Most people know, people know these days. So people are going to know more because Putin's going to keep telling the truth and standing up against these people. And you watch old speeches of him 5, 6, 8 years ago. There's a great one of him at the WEF. And people are like, oh, he was part of the WEF. I think you had to be. Like everyone was in the gang, right? You got to be there. It doesn't mean that you're going to the after parties.
You've got to know your enemy, right? You've got to know your enemy. That's
exactly.
And if he's hanging out,
was out there.
And if he's, like with the Chinese, like they know Sun Tzu. I mean, Trump runs on the art of war, right? We're seeing the art of war at play. If we have eyes to look at it, it's absolutely like, see, I don't believe we're heading towards nuclear Armageddon. I think the threat of it is there, but I don't believe we're going to get there. But it's not, I just don't think people are going to wake up here in Australia in particular until their money's taken away from them. They have no idea. And I keep saying to people, get your money out of the stock market, put some, muck around, buy some silver, whatever. And people just look at me like, you're a fruitcake. What would you know? And don't take money advice from me because I'm certainly no financial wizard, right? But
you're spot on with what you're saying. And especially the point about the Aussies, we're so complacent. Australia has been abundant plus for generations now. Like we didn't get affected after the Second World War. We sent so few people. It was all the way on the other side of the world. Back then it was like old school ships and planes. It wasn't close. We didn't have that many people. Now the cat wants to come and say g'day. This is our little cutie cat. Hello, cutie.
Family affair.
It is a fair. The dog will be up here soon, and the wife will come and say g'day, and we'll be all complete. But Australia has been in a lap of luxury. We're so complacent. Everyone's got their big house with their 2 cars and their boat. You know, it's all in debt, but it doesn't really matter because the economy's been so strong. The only thing you need to do to make money is buy a house now, hold it for 20 years and sell it, and you'll, you know, quadruple your money. That's the only way you need to make money. You didn't have to really do anything, you know, other than get a mortgage and hold a mortgage and pay a mortgage payment, and you'd be rich by the time you finished. You know, you make money, but it's like we're so complacent. Same thing would happen with COVID. After this winter and the next winter, if the news actually shows what is about to happen in Europe, if Australian news actually shows the people freezing and the people struggling with energy, Europe's industrial sector, especially in Germany, is gone.
I wanted to ask you about, you know, we hear about Germany. How is Germany the integral country in Europe? What's their play?
Yeah, great question. It's the biggest economy in Europe. So Europe is a bundle of economies, effectively, right? The euro, the combined currency, is a bundle of these currencies, and they've all got their own GDPs, gross domestic product, how much money they make each year. Germany is the number one, like multiple times some of the other smaller countries. So if you had some small country disappear, it doesn't really matter. But if you've got the number one country that's holding that whole place together, like it's doing now, go down, there. The boy coming in again. The manufacturing sector is going down. Businesses are closing like crazy. In industry, they don't have any electricity. They use gas to make electricity. There's no gas, and the gas they're getting is like 2 to 3 times the price they were paying for Russian gas. They can't afford it. Plus inflation. The unions just come out, I saw yesterday, saying, the German union saying we want a 10.1% pay rise in line with inflation. And these companies are already like, mate, do you know how much electricity is? Like, we can't even afford to run these factories right now at a profit, let alone pay you guys more money. So there's going to be layoffs, which then causes more problems inside of the economy. The biggest thing, though, is going to be this energy crisis. And again, if Australian people see it and then they extrapolate a couple of years and they say, that's coming to us, that's going to get to us.
We don't care, mate. It's summertime here in Australia. We're going to the beach. We don't care. The cricket's on now. The football's over.
It's very true.
You know,
and that's the difference in Australia. Even if it was winter, it's like, it's winter. You know, put another jumper on and you'll be fine. Well, when it's minus 15 outside and for 3 months,
and you know, we have Anthony Albanese. One of the first things he did when he came in as Prime Minister was say, okay, by 2030 we're going to cut carbon emissions by
60%.
40%.
It's 40% down to 60%.
Australia's going to feel it, right? There's like. Yeah. At some point in time, they're going to feel it. We got Saudi Arabia. They're not going to give oil. You know, got Biden,
2 million barrels
Sleepy Joe begging for oil. They're like, nah. And now they're like.
We've now got New Zealand taxing the burping and farting of cattle. I mean, it's insanity. There's a farmer's tax for the burping and farting of cattle. I mean, It's insanity.
That's where it starts, because they want to have a carbon tax on every individual.
Yeah.
So they're starting with the industries, but then there's going to be, you've got a carbon tax. You can only eat so much, drink so much, drive so much, consume so much until you've got a cap on you. Obviously, if you've got lots of money, you can buy other people's things that then carbon credits that they're not using. That's the agenda that they have. I can't see it happening because so many of us are having this conversation, and that's the key. That's what has to happen. Putin's got his whole country standing up against these people. All we need to do is get a small portion of our countries, like we did come 2 years ago with COVID. That was 3 years ago now, nearly 2.5 years ago with COVID. We started standing up and saying no. More and more people standing up and saying, I'm not playing your carbon tax game. I'm not playing your trans bullshit game. I'm not playing your control everything game. We're not playing that game anymore. And there's pockets of us standing up all around the world, again, in support of what Russia's doing here, actually going in and saying it's not going to happen. We'll win, you know, and it's a war. Let's be honest. We are at war. And people are like, it's all love and light. It's all rainbows and unicorns. Look, lady, for fuck's sake, I want to live like that too. But you've got to go through the hard times to get to the good times sometimes. And, you know, crystals and healing and Reiki are all beautiful, and I'm all about all of them. But at the end of the day, get strong, get centered, get community around you, be smart with your choices. There's a reason we're building an off-grid cabin right now in an eco-village, 300 families in an eco-village here in Russia. We don't know what's going to happen. It's 2022. 2030 is their agenda. These guys have got another 8 years to ratchet down what they want to do. You know, they're only just warming up with what they want to do. Get ready. You know, this is the beginning. This is the warm-up laps for what they want to be doing. And these guys control a lot of things, from industry to the financial system, to the media, to the government. They control the powers that be, that control the world. It's going to get harder before it gets better, in my opinion. It's going to get tougher for some people. And, you know, Australia will be less, unlike, you know, Germany and even France and Poland and, you know, Europe, UK, America. Australia is sort of like, unless China gets in the mix with Taiwan and then sails straight down or just walks out of their bases over in Western Australia and Northern Territory, which is all Chinese military base there already, right? But if China gets in, yeah, if China gets in the mix, then Australia's going to have a whole different story. My old hometown of Bali is not going to be so pretty there anymore.
You know, we're talking about what's going on the surface of this planet, right? What's going on underground, and let's not forget these tunnels that run between these high-speed maglev trains and stuff that run between all of these countries. We don't know what's going on under there. We hear things, but we don't know.
So true. Yeah. We really don't know what's going on. We don't know the truth anymore. We don't. There could be a whole civilization underground right now living with a greater population than what's on the surface of this planet. Or the whole thing's a hologram and it doesn't really matter. It's all just ones and zeros in a binary matrix. You know, that moon, the more you look at the moon, you realize it ain't spinning. It's not some spinning ball that's floating around another ball in space. Like there's something else going on here. There's so much going on that we don't even know. Will we see it in our lifetime? I'd like to
I think so.
I think that we will. I think that we will see it in our lifetime, and I think that we will know in our lifetime for sure.
Let's hope.
Definitely your son's lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was thinking. Like, I'd like to pass the baton to my son, but it ends now. Like, this is the end days that the Bible talks about, and it is God versus the devil. It is the angels versus Satan. Like, this is a game. This is a computer game. We're just playing. It's a game.
There's an AI enemy, right? You're not wrong when you say it's a computer game. There's a computer playing with us. Like, we are their game.
Yeah. Well, we're in it. Like, we're wingless angels. I used to love this game when I was a kid. That Z came from a very similar game. It was called Command and Conquer. An old boys game, you know, back from the 90s. CNC, Command and Conquer. It's still around today. And you had the good guys and you had the bad guys. And you could choose to play each team. And then you'd go and fight each other online, you know, and you'd build little armies and you'd fight against each other. It's the same thing. I signed up to be in this reality with you girls. Thank you very much. Here we are, to be on the good side. I signed up to have empathy and love and kindness and care, but strength along with it. None of that is weakness. All of that is strength. And then there's these people who are, you know, masochistic, sadistic, psychopaths, no empathy, you know, just want it all for themselves. They've got their own set of skills. Like that, we had different weapons. They got different weapons, you know, these are different personal traits, but it's really, they want to hurt us and we're saying, fuck you. It's not going to happen. You are not getting past us to get our children. The buck stops with me. We are strong enough. And all we need is enough of us to stand up and claim our freedom. Just be like, this is who I am. You're not going to stand in my way.
I mean, we really are the last generation to protect our children, because if they get through us, our children are fucked, because their little supple minds, they're going to be brainwashed beyond comprehension. So it's us. We are the army that's protecting the children behind us.
We have to be. And look at the kids now. I've got a big heart space for the young ones because of all the work I did with outdoor education, you know, and working at the Green School. Like, teenagers for me is where it's at. Little ones like that are hard. Give me teenagers any day. People are like, teenagers, I love them. They're getting so bashed from social media. Like, these kids don't. I listen to Jordan Peterson a lot, Dr. Jordan Peterson. Andrew Tate I've been listening to lately with all of the controversy around him. You know, love him or hate him, and a lot of people don't like what he's saying about women, and that's fine. I think some of the stuff he says is a bit fucking edgy, but more to the point, Jordan Peterson just saying how hard it is for young men these days, especially, but there's young women as well that are suffering. And the brainwashing from, because they want to weaken the man. As soon as the men, you look at your army, you say, oh, it's all equal rights. Well, how many women are in the army
The
compared to
army
how
are
many
in
men?
stilettos these days, for God's sake, you know. I
The
mean,
US army, yeah,
yeah,
crazy. Not the Russians. The Russians are
not the
still mud on the
They
Russians.
want
face.
to cut down the
Yeah,
alpha male. They want to get rid of the alpha male. They want to feminize men and make them weak.
soy
And
boys.
And
Yeah.
yeah, little lamb boys.
and not the Ukrainian army. I mean, these are warrior fighters. These have been through battle. But we look at the Prime Minister, Zelensky. We've seen him in stilettos, haven't we? This is the madness.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No,
Yeah.
we got to get strong. And we really have to, like, as individuals, get very, very strong. We got to come from that warrior spirit. I say I trained martial arts since I was 10 years old. I live and breathe it. I love martial art, yoga, like the peaceful arts. It's all one for me. I love to dance as well. Like, I love movement. I love hitting the gym and going the weights. Anything I can to get my body stronger, my mind more centered, a lot of meditation, a lot of time in nature. This is the life that we have to be embracing now. And people, if you're thinking that it's just going to be rosy like it has been for the last generation, the baby boomer generation, it's like, oh yeah, mum and dad had it easy, my life's going to be easy like that too. Wake up. Like, it's time to get serious about what we are facing here. Get strong in your physical, get strong in your mental, get stable in your emotional, build great relationships with people around you. Intimate, of course, and then from there, friends, family, community, strong. Get people around you that you can rely on and count on. Then from there, look at how can I create self-reliance, get out of the system. I plan to grow a lot of food. That's why I'm in an eco village. I work online, one, because I love the online space, but also it's a very leveraged environment where I can reach a lot of people, and using technology, I can make more money than I would from going to work every day. Like, it's a business. I can leverage it so I make more income. I invest that income, gold and silver. Right now, all my money's in property. It's all in the development of my home, but it's gold and silver. It's like physical things, gold coins. I want to actually focus most of mine on property. I want to get a lot more land. I want to build a farm here, and then I want to go and buy several hundred acres or hectares, excuse me, of land and build an international eco village where I help people like you ladies. If shit gets crazy in Australia, I want to help people move to Russia.
We're putting Russia on the
live in
list of
eco-villages.
countries that we're coming to, Scott. Don't worry
Yes.
about that.
Well, that's what I want to do. I want to help people.
I've been to Russia.
Hey?
I've been to more than 80 countries in my life, and I've never been to Russia. It's always been on the list, and I've just never got there yet.
It was never on my list. It was never even a thought going to Russia. Yeah, it's never been there, but now it is.
So, Scotty, let's I mean, this has been an absolutely thrilling conversation. I could just talk to you all night long. So what kind of courses are you running at the moment for people in your online space? Because I'm sure there's people that have been listening to this and loving it. What support are you offering humanity for this time on the earth?
Yeah, so the main focus I've got now is awakening the freedom warriors. So I'm moving, a lot of my background in the recent years has been around social media marketing. So helping people to free themselves online through coaching, healing, therapy, or affiliate marketing, some way that they can use social media to build a business to reach people and make money doing it. I still have those skills and I really love helping people with that, but I see that as only one part of the entire spectrum of being a freedom warrior. So more my focus now, I'm peeling it back to just work one-on-one. I don't have a course for that yet. I'm still developing the actual nuts and bolts of the course, which is a lot of work if you've ever built an online course before. So I'm doing one-on-one. I'll probably move to group coaching as well. But from now, it's like I've got 8 areas of life that we need to focus on developing to get really, really strong. And it starts with that physical, moving to the mental. How are you actually tuning in? My focus is, I said it before, but we're spiritual beings. We're physical, but we're spiritual beings. How do we bring in the power of spirit into the physical body so that we're not acting from a scarce resource, which this reality is a scarce resource? We're operating from the power plant. We're operating from God, from source, from the universe. So it's about opening the chakra system. It's about embodying that energy of freedom, which is love, spirit, God, and bringing that through physically, mentally, emotionally, again, in your relationships, moving into that abundance, that self-reliance. And then a big thing for me is spoken word and written word. How do people express themselves I've created my life on being able to speak my truth no matter who is standing in front of me. And I think that I just watched a video of this lady in Byron, a copper pulling her over, and she's just like boom, 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 saying all the common law stuff, like I'm a living woman, you got no authority over me. Like that takes courage.
And
that takes
how
self-belief.
do we use our words to break the spells, that have been put on us by the words that have been used against us?
And that gets quite technical, and I want to learn more. Tom Barnett, I think, does a lot of stuff around actually the languaging of it. My real focus is I love helping people believe in themselves enough to be that person, because you can't do it unless you are it, right? So it's really about embodying that courage, that self-belief to step up in the face of whatever is in front of you, to follow your intuition. You've traveled to 80 countries, right? It's because your intuition said it's time to get on a plane. It's time to go here, Bella. And you're like, really? I can't go there. I'm working a job. And you're like, oh, fuck it, let's go. And trust your intuition.
Much like yourself, Scotty, I've lived outside the system my whole life. I've been wherever I wanted to go. I've traveled where I wanted. I was doing it long before the influencers on Instagram. People are, oh my God, how do you live in there for a year? And it's like, well, I just make it happen. Yeah. Oh, you're lucky. Luck has nothing to do with it. It's, making yourself available and just going for it.
And backing yourself, going for it, as you said. Like a lot of people, they want to do something, but there's this, like, I call them demons of doubt. And they're the little ones under the bed that sneak up and go, you're not good enough. Why would anyone listen? These are the ones that are just holding people back. And now we can't have our warriors held back by limiting beliefs and by like, you're not good enough energy. I talk about the ultimate is we're on a hero's journey, right? You have to slay the dragon. And that dragon is fear. Fear is the only thing that holds us back. And once we recognize that dragon is paper thin and we can cut through that dragon and do what we want to do, be who we want to be, say what we want to say, you're free. You're absolutely free. And then you can create the life that you want to live from that center. So my focus is really helping people to get that center. I call it awaken freedom, because it's inside of us. It's who we really are. We are spirit. We are love. We are God, universe, whatever word you want to use, doesn't matter. We are like infinite freedom. It's just time to awaken to that power inside us. And so that's what I guide people on.
And what a gift the last 2.5, almost 3 years now has been in assisting those that had that. They didn't even know we had the seed in us. Hang on a minute. Whoa, no, there's a warrior here. I don't give a shit what people think about me anymore. So you've got a good, there's never been a better time, right?
Well, that's why I was born, and I've been on this journey for 20 years consciously knowing that I was born for this time. I'm a leader. I've always been a leader. I help people. I love people. I care about people, but I get people to act. Like that's my one gift is if there's shit going on, I'm the guy that everyone looks to and goes, fuck, what do we do next? I'm like, right, let's go. Like you're probably saying, right, but shit, it's the fan. Everyone's looking at Scotty. He's like, fuck, what do we need to do next? Like, cool, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to sort this out. I get people to believe in themselves and to act. And that moves mountains. You can have no skill and lots of action and you'll still accomplish something, right? So you just got to go for it.
Yeah. Well, the first time I ever heard you, there was just a, oh, there's something special here. This guy's got something, and you've got a beautiful energy, just a really beautiful energy. And such a, when we spoke, it was like, we don't want people to be scared through this. So, and that comes down to that releasing the fear, doesn't it? Overcoming or just not letting that, you're going to get bombed. You're going to get this, your money's or whatever that is, just no.
That's the control. They use fear to control us. And as soon as you recognize that they're using fear to control us and you don't want to be any part of it anymore, you let go of the fear. And when it creeps back up into that shoulder, which is where it comes for me, I feel it come up into the right shoulder. I go, just open my heart again, because that's just closing down my heart. And I'm just, back into my center, open my heart.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. We try and keep things to about an hour. Absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
Speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you, Scott? Is there any way you'd like to direct people if they want?
Look, easiest is Facebook or Telegram. Facebook, just search Scotty Z. So Scotty with a Y, Z-E, 2 words, not double E. It's just 1 E, Scotty Z, Z-E. You find me there. On Telegram, I've got a channel for those on Telegram, or you just search Awaken Freedom Z. So Awaken Freedoms with a Z. So Awaken Freedoms, yeah. So Scotty Z or Awaken Freedoms. And yeah, reach out, come on the journey, let's go. I'm going to keep sharing a lot of stuff from here, I always do. Just try and help people. And we're almost finished our house in the Eco Village. We head back there tomorrow. The heating engineer is on site. So we're getting the floor and the boiler and everything.
Power in Russia, mate. You're not going to be cold this winter.
Well, we're completely wood fired. So we're completely off grid. I've got 2 truckloads of wood stacked out the back. It's a wood fired boiler, wood fired heating system. We just got the well dug last week, which is really exciting. So, old bucket style well. It's got a pump, got a generator, if anything goes out. So we're off grid on the edge of the forest. I can cut my own wood if I need to. It's a big job. Prefer to pay someone. But if I need to, I'm set up. And yeah, I just want to show people like alternative ways of living as well. Like the eco village and building community and growing food, and yeah, got to do it. Thanks, ladies.
So much.
Appreciate it.
You're awesome. We must do this again.
Keen, always keen.
All
Yeah,
right.
love having a good yarn.
Yeah,
Right.
thanks for tuning in, and thanks for sharing all of your information and your knowledge with us. You're just a bowl of energy and open-heartedness, and we love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bella. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jane. And thank you for everything you're doing as well. Like you guys have got a great audience out there of people that you're supporting and are supporting you. Keep doing that. We need more people out there.
We're just
with
having a
good hearts,
conversation, mate. We're just trying to figure it out, That's
We're
it.
all trying to figure it out.
That's right.
For sure.
Yeah.
But you're stepping up and you're doing it, and I appreciate that. And a lot of people do.
Yeah, we're having a go, just like you. And just like you listening at home, have these conversations. Be willing to have the conversations that people aren't willing to have. Because like Scotty said, enough of us talk about this, enough of us stand up and say no, then, we're going to win this, and we're going to, be living in a life that we want to be living, which is one filled with peace and prosperity. But we got to get there first.
Yeah, 100%. I told you my wife was going to come and say hello. Oh, no, she's come to shut the door. I was waiting for the last member of the family. The dog didn't come.
Next time.
Next time.
All right, bye everyone.
See you guys.
Thank you, Scott.
Cheers.